I'm very grateful that my parents got divorced when I was younger. I think they could have gotten divorced sooner.
Okay.
I think they knew, probably they wanted it to work, but I think ultimately and subconsciously they knew it was a wrap. And I wish they would have wrapped it up then. Only because, and my mom is going to kick my ass for saying this on this podcast, I think that me and my mother would have had a better relationship if she would have not been in an unhappy relationship in her marriage. People trying to stay for the kids is so toxic, because if you're unhappy as a person, as a wife, as an individual, that's going to affect your motherhood. It is.
No, it is. We literally.
Okay, so this is one of them that goes into the topic for tonight. It's more than one, but this is the first one. So, in your opinion, do you guys think that, for this particular topic, when you're in an unhealthy relationship, whether it be a marriage, because you're the parents of the kids, do you think that the relationships affect your parenting skills? Do you think the relationship of marriage affects your parenting skills?
I wouldn't let it affect mine, but I know some people feel like they can't. I'd put on a good game face if I had to. I'd try and make that stuff work so the kids didn't have to feel any of the animosity in the house. Like, we got an issue, you can talk about that outside the house or in our bedroom or something. I'm not about to be arguing or even carrying on in a manner that's I could be a Grammy Award, or what is it, a Oscar Award winning actor when it comes to making sure my kids don't feel none of that tension within the house. Because you could feel that stuff when you come in the room. It's thick, like it's like smoke when you come in the room. It's hella tension in. Now, can it for some people? I think so, but I would place the safety, sanity, and the well-being of my children before my emotions any day and twice on Sunday. So that's just my perspective, but I think it can affect some people.
I agree with that, Marcus.
Yeah, I think that, some people can compartmentalize their relationship. They act one way to their marriage, they act another way to the kids. And most of the time, it seems like it's easier to treat the kids well than it is to treat the person that you're unhappy with well. And so I see oftentimes like people be like, well, I'm just staying for the kids. Man, listen, F them kids. If you ain't working with the people that made those kids, you're gonna jack them up anyway. So that's always been my motto, is just like, yo, listen, if God, Jesus, if God can give up his own son, who's much better than all of us, why in God's name can I look at these kids and be like, F that, I'm gonna work on the thing that made these kids? That's just my opinion.
Wait, so you said you gonna be like F the kids?
Well, F these kids in this sense that the kids don't come before the marriage is what I'm saying. Because oftentimes what people do is they transition to the kids because it's easier to focus on the kids because they didn't ask to be here. Y'all were just having a good old time, and then now here comes the kids, right? So people tend to be like, well, these kids need to be taken care of. So they'll focus on taking care of the kids instead of taking care of the thing that built the kids. So, because the thing is, you will have better kids if you have a better relationship. Just saying.
I agree with that. I think that a lot of people really lack emotional self-control and emotional maturity. And so they aren't able to look past their own happiness. Like, yes, happiness is important. Yes, happiness makes a difference. But I think especially in our generation, because there's like this instant gratification, that those moments where it's hard to get to feel like forever. And I think people can't look long-term enough to work through those things and allow those moments to really take over. And it gets really tricky when children are involved, because you're not just affecting your own intimate relationship, but you're affecting how those children are going to view relationships for a really long time, right? And so if you have that tenacity to work through things together, then like it teaches something very different. right? If you just have a happy-go-lucky marriage all the time, the children don't get to see what two people who love each other look like when they're working through things. But if you're able to model what healthy, constructive problem solving looks like in a relationship, then at least there's that learning opportunity to be like, okay, these people really care for each other, and are able to go through rocky moments together. But when you allow it to devour you, you don't tend to do that. And that's really when people start to flip that switch and treat their person in a way where it does become toxic, not only to the relationship, but it models a toxic relationship to the children too.
The only thing that, because I completely agree with aspects of what all three of you said, but just looking at the other side, if you are in a relationship that is hella toxic, where you're pushing on each other, hitting on each other, and cussing each other out all the time, you do need to get out of that relationship. But at the same time, you should have thought about those things prior to having kids. And I understand things happen, people change, but you have to, if you're going to have kids, you need to be married. If you're not going to be married, then you don't need to have kids. And if you're married, you need to fight for the relationship and not each other. But if you're in that relationship where it's constant bickering and constant fighting for the sake of the kids, you do need to get let that relationship go and figure out how to co-parent. I just want to add that little piece of the conversation that we're not talking about.
Go ahead, Marcus, and I wanted to say something.
Can somebody like explain to me how the progression of getting? Because I never got to a relationship before where I'm like bickering and fighting with somebody. So how does that progression happen? Like, what does it look like, and how do you get there?
You mean when people are arguing with each other?
Yeah, like how do you get like? It just don't like compute to me how two people who love each other can be so angry that they in the house actually coming to blows. Like, so
Well,
how
some
does
people
that
don't love each
progression
other.
happen? Right.
Some people marry because they had they have a kid now. Maybe it was asleep, and so you just did the manly thing by marrying a person. Some people cheat. So, and depending on the woman that you have, that may mean a lot to her, which means her trust is now gone. So now, that causes a toxic, relationship between the two of you. There's so many things, because we're all human. We all have flaws. There's so many things that can come in the middle of a relationship, so.
How much of this do you think is because, like, as a collective, we really, really lack conflict resolution and communication skills?
Oh,
'Cause
absolutely. Emotional intelligence as well. I mean, it's a lot of things that go to play. My question is too, because I wanted to take this to another step. What about people who are not married? They're just dating, or they're in relationships outside. There's no marriage, single parents. Do you think that single parenthood interferes with parenting? I mean,
yes,
dating while you're a single parent interferes with your
yes,
ability to parent.
yes. And the reason I say that is because, so just strictly speaking from like my perspective, right? When I see people in relationships that are broken up and they have kids and the other person moves on and they get somebody else, the fathers that I know, they really don't want nobody like disciplining their child. And if they find out somebody disciplining their child, it's going to affect a lot of stuff, like a whole lot of stuff. And it could get dangerous in some cases, because people are extremely protective over their children. And I think the most protective thing would have been to make that relationship work so they don't have to even encounter that type of issue. But it happens, and shoot, that's a scare I couldn't imagine. I can't. I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine somebody trying to parent my kids. Hell no, I can't go at gunpoint. I'm not. I'm just gonna mute up. I can't.